Hey, it's Jam17 here, back with another video. So my last review with the Hiya Toys Kong figure, this guy over here, I had mentioned that I was interested in seeing what Hiya was going to do with their classic Godzilla figure lines. They're moving away from the Monsterverse. They're still doing those, but now they're starting to visit, the older movies from the 90s, and now they're doing stuff from the Millennium series. So when they first announced their figure, they announced the 1991 Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Ghidorah. Pre-ordered that once it was announced. A year later, things are a little bit of a mess with importing goods. It's kind of a hard time being a collector out there, if I'm being honest with you. But I was in talks with Hiya over the summer. I was like, hey, is my figure coming in? They said it would be here at the end of July or early August. It is now the beginning of September. So I was just kind of, constantly checking my order every week, seeing if there were any updates. Finally got an email a couple weeks ago that it was being shipped. I started seeing other people get their figures. Mine wasn't in, and then sure enough, last weekend, it was finally delivered, and now I have the Godzilla versus Ghidorah figure. Check this figure out. So as I mentioned, this is the Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Ghidorah, the Hokkaido battle version. And I am just really, really pumped to finally have this figure in my hands. I'm really eager to open it. So let's get to it and check this figure out. So here is the box itself. In front, we have the mighty Heisei Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Ghidorah, 1991. We have the movie logo over here in Japanese, exquisite basic Hiya Toys logo. Moving over to the side, we get a view of Godzilla's big ol' monster thighs. Moving to the back, all that information, logo, another picture of our boy Godzilla. Over here we got some roaring action Godzilla. And back to the front. So let's go ahead and do one of these. And just like other Hiya figures, they have it Godzilla in a nice protected plastic. So here we can see Godzilla, and we got some hand accessories. Love to see that. So let's go ahead and get him out of this. And here he is, the classic, iconic Heisei Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Ghidorah, the Hokkaido battle version. And right away, opening up this figure, messing with it a little bit off camera, I am very impressed with the work that Toho has done with this figure. I know or believe the way it was made was a little bit different. Where the Legendary films, I believe they have like the actual model files for those figures. But here in the 90s films, Millennium and Showa, these were guys in suits. And as far as from what I understood, there weren't really digital files that they just kind of copied and passed over. Maybe it was some CGI scenes here and there, but yeah, I mean, they actually had to have from what I understand, a artist go in, make this sculpt, go through all that toy making process that I'm very much not knowledgeable about to comment on, but definitely a different process and probably not as easy as just kind of getting a file from a movie and turning that into a figure. But yeah, I mean, it's Heisei Godzilla. You could really argue this is the face of Godzilla. And I know their H movie in the 90s had their own little, changes from here and there. But, I see this, I know, oh, that's Godzilla from the 90s. Godzilla 90s. Throwback to the good old Save the Earth games. But, yeah, I mean, really impressed with the look of this guy. Let's go ahead and talk about articulation. So let's talk about articulation, starting with the head. So first off, maybe this is something to talk about in the, fine detail section, but, let's just cover everything while we're going through this. So when this figure first came out, people were noticing that he was looking not quite what you would expect the Heisei Godzilla from the 90s to look. He was looking a little too cute. Maybe that's not the word that people thought of, but when I see the original head, I kind of think that. So this is the new head that they repainted. So really the big change here is they kind of made his eyes look a little meaner and more fierce, kind of what you expect from the 90s Godzilla films. Whereas the original head here, the eyes are a lot more filled in, and you know, when I first saw it, I could see what people were talking about, but at the same time, I think this head's all right. I see this head and it makes me think of my cute little cat that I love a lot. And you know, with that said, you know, my cute little cat could be kind of mean, and so could this Godzilla. So, you know, personally, I didn't have a big issue with it, but you know, I also understand people want their accuracy in their figures, especially if they're paying a lot of money for it. So I think it's pretty cool that Hiya put in the effort to make a new head model, and I believe everyone got it for free. Even if you had already gotten the original head, they just sent you a new one, and you know, a lot of the distributors were holding orders, waiting for the new head model to come in. But you know, pretty good stuff. So in terms of articulation, head, twist around, do the full 360 and stuff like that. Got a hinged jaw, so you could close the mouth, you can open it, twist around, up and down, open mouth, pose it as you want. Let's talk about the arms. You got your full articulation you expect. You do some Godzilla T-posing shenanigans. Believe these are on a ball joint. Could do some swiveling. Move at the forearms. Twist the hands around. Also, this figure comes with additional hand options. Now, these aren't as easy to just pop in and out like the Kong figure. So when I was just trying to apply it just with force, it wasn't working. So probably gonna have to apply some heat onto the sockets, or I guess apply the heat to this socket, pop it in, hands are on a ball joint, usual figure kind of stuff. Let's see, the waist, you could twist around and, oh, I killed him! He's fine, everyone calm down. This guy's on a ball joint. Ball joint goes in socket, pop in. So, yeah, I don't think that's supposed to happen, but on the first night when I was messing with him, like I said, I was trying to put these additional hands on. It's pretty easy to pop these off. But then when I was trying to put this hand on, you know, I wasn't doing anything crazy. It's just holding the figure down in his arms, and I tried pushing it on, wasn't popping on, but then something else popped out, and it was his whole freaking upper body. I mean, doing closer inspection, it looks like if I really wanted a more permanent, you know, not have to worry about him popping off. And it isn't really crazy. Like if I hold him back, he's still able to hold up, and I'm able to, you know, play around with him. As if I put a whole lot of pressure on it and try to move it around, it pops off pretty easily. I think some classic heating up will restore it back to its original tightness. But yeah, I mean, I haven't really seen this issue with other figures, so I'm just gonna call it and say it's mine. We'll talk about another issue I had later, but you know, unfortunately on my end, I'm not gonna call it and say, you know, this totally ruins the figure for me, because, you know, besides that point, everything else works as intended. Just a little looser here, but I mean, he's still able to hold himself up. I could squat him over and things like that. If it was just totally not holding up, that'd be a whole other conversation, but I mean, it still holds itself together. Might have to do some shenanigans and fixes on my end before I, you know, try to reach out to Hiya or anything like that. But let's look at the legs. So legs, he's got those big old Godzilla thighs. Legs are more articulated than I thought they'd be for the Heisei Godzilla. I mean, I don't know, maybe I need to look at my Legendary again, but these almost feel like they have more range of motion than the Legendary, at least in my King of the Monsters figure. And again, I would have to compare the two side by side. But yeah, you can swivel this guy back and forth, feet, full 360 spin that you can do. They also have a bit of range in motion here. So, you know, you have options for how you want the legs to be holed up. Let's talk about probably what everyone was really impressed with this figure is the freaking tail. So first glance, you're like, okay, what's the big deal? It's just a Godzilla tail, man. But I'll show you the big deal. All of this tail is sleeve upon sleeve, and within those sleeves are ball joints that are connecting the tail. What that means is you get a wide range of articulation in Godzilla's tail. Look at that. That is crazy, and it's really just changes how I feel about what I want my Godzilla tails to be. Yeah, I mean, this is just, you could do all sorts of poses. You could have his tail strung out. You could do the classic, I call it the -1, you know, curved tail, Godzilla looking over kind of look. But yeah, I mean, this thing is just insane. I mean, I've seen some people do some like hard S's. They're even like the, I guess the trendy thing to do with the tail is to try to get it to hold up Godzilla. So like, so this is where I get into my second issue that I had with this figure is, I think when I was trying to get him to balance on his tail, so essentially the trick would be you're getting the tail to do a bottom curve, and you know, you're messing around with it. You try to, you know, I'm afraid to try to do it for the reason I'm about to tell you. But essentially, you get the tail to hold Godzilla up. You could do some funny and cool poses with that. But I think in the process of doing that, I loosened up some of these joints that were up here in her tail, so the tip popped off. And I was like, oh, well, let me just pop it back in. Pop it back in. I don't know what happened, but then it caused like these first 3 segments to pop out. And I was like, okay, well, let me pop that in. It wasn't sticking in. That's what she said, but it wasn't going in. And at this point, it was getting pretty late at night. I had work the next day, so I was sitting in bed, kind of bummed that my tail was messing up. I even got up at one point that night to see if I could try to just heat it and put it back in. Nothing was taking. Just trying a lot of tricks, and I started asking online. And that's when someone brought it to my attention that, and like I said, this is a whole sleeve system. So we start here from where the tail meets the body, and you can even see like the segmented parts. They're all sleeves kind of going over each other, and that is in those sleeves is where the ball joints connect. And so what I had to do was pop the sleeve off on the segment that I was trying to stick this in. That's what she said. Heat that up. Then as I'm putting the tail on, I have to like put on the sleeve and push hard so the socket, the ball joint would hit the socket and pop in. Finally worked, so thank you to all those that helped me online in various places. That was really killing my, you know, vibe with this figure. But now that it's fixed, I mean, tail works as intended. You can see I do a lot of crazy poses with it. And overall, I'm just really, really impressed with what they did with this tail. And, you know, I hope they incorporate in other Godzilla figures, because the possibilities with this tail are just awesome, and I just love the different potential poses that you could do with them. I mean, look, I got a whole S going on. S for super awesome tail. But yeah, I mean, that's in terms of articulation, kind of what you'd expect from the Hiya Godzilla figure. In terms of the paint and details that they did on this figure, I think they did really well. I mean, you could look at these dorsal spikes in the back. They got that classic dark shading that turns into gray. I mean, it's not a very colorful Godzilla, but with what you expect from Heisei, I mean, I think they did a pretty good job. They got that nice dark gray color going on. You look at his little nails over here, they're like a, I don't know what you call that. It's like a brownish mixed with white. Look at his little toenails. Brown color. Teeth. Let's open that mouth. Zoom out. Teeth are, I believe, would appear to be the same color as the, yeah, as his nails on his hand and feet. So, yeah, I mean, again, me personally, I think this is a very solid figure, and I think they did a good job in terms of articulation and detail. So this will conclude this video on the Hiya Toys Godzilla from Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah 1991, the Hokkaido battle version. And I really think Hiya did a fantastic job in capturing the spirit and fierce look of the 90s Godzilla that we all know and love, with fantastic detail and tons of articulation. For it being a figure based on the 90s movies, it's really impressive with the amount of articulation and movement you can get out of this guy. You know, in those movies, he's pretty stiff because, I mean, you know, it's what's expected. It's a guy in a big suit. We didn't have these fancy computers that we have today where we can make Godzilla freaking hop around everywhere and go crazy. But, you know, that's also awesome. But, you know, they had to work with what they had back then, and you know, to have the amount of articulation and movement possibilities you have in a Heisei Godzilla, I think that's awesome. Again, gives you more opportunities or possibilities of how you want to pose your Godzilla on your shelf. And, you know, every now and then I walk to my shelf and I'm like, you know, today you're gonna be in this pose and your tail's gonna do this thing. And, you know, I like that I'm able to do that. So I appreciate Hiya putting in the extra work of giving us another great detailed, highly articulated Godzilla figure at a great price, and I'm definitely eager to get my hands on more of their classic Toho figures. I have the King Ghidorah from the same movie, 1991, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah figure. Have that, so I'll be opening that up real soon and sharing my thoughts with you as well, so stay tuned for that. I'm also eager for more Hiya stuff to come out. They're constantly revealing new things that are coming. I think recently their big figure that they just announced was the Monster X from Godzilla Final Wars, which, you know, I'm not a big Monster X fan, but when I saw those pictures, like, you know, I don't think I'd mind having a Monster X on my shelf, because, man, Hiya just does great jobs with these figures, and I really like what they're doing with their figures here. So again, make it really easy to come back and continue being a happy customer for them. So again, thank you for watching. Glad you're here. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you decide to get this guy. Again, I know my figure had some issues, but I think overall the general sentiment is that they really killed it with this figure, and, you know, I'm really happy with the purchase as well. And, you know, hopefully I could get that little malfunction attended to and can enjoy my figure in peace without worrying that he's just gonna split in half. But yeah, so again, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more stuff. Got some more things coming on the way, and I'm glad you're here, and hope I will see you in the next video.